My husband cheated on me with his secretary during my pregnancy. In a fit of rage, I gathered his family and stormed the hotel room where they were staying. But during the chaotic confrontation, the secretary pushed me down the stairs, causing me to miscarry. The devastating loss plunged me into a deep, dark depression, plagued by constant thoughts of ending my own life. My husband stepped down from his executive position, dedicating every single day to taking care of me. He blacklisted the secretary from the entire industry and swore he would spend the rest of his life making it up to me. 3 years passed, and I slowly began to piece my life back together. On the day of my final recovery checkup, I took his car. When I turned on the automatic GPS to navigate home, the route took me to an upscale apartment complex directly across from our estate. On the screen, the saved address was simply labeled home. I realized then that his home was never with me, and I was never the one he loved. Not far ahead, Nicholas was gently guiding a visibly pregnant Evelyn toward the entrance of the apartment building. The tenderness on his face was identical to the expression he wore every time he coaxed me to take my medicine over the past 3 years. But at this moment, the illusion shattered. Every sweet word, every warm embrace had been nothing but a carefully orchestrated lie. Numbly, I picked up my phone and dialed the number pinned at the top of my contact list. A few yards away, Nicholas paused. He freed one hand to answer the call, his voice dripping with his usual affectionate warmth. "Fiona, honey, is your checkup finished? I'm so sorry, sweetie. An emergency came up at the office today, so I couldn't make it to the hospital with you." My gaze remained locked on the rearview mirror, watching the two of them leaning in close to one another. My voice felt incredibly dry, raspy as I spoke. "Where are you?" "I'm at the office working overtime, of course. Do you want to do a video call?" He knew I wouldn't. For 3 years, he had meticulously logged his daily schedule for me, even reporting what he ate for breakfast. But I had always kept a respectful distance. I didn't want to smother him, and I didn't want him to lose face in front of his employees. Whenever he said he was working late, I never called to disturb him. I had no idea he was using my trust to build a second life. Through the glass, I saw him lean down, pressing his nose against Evelyn's cheek as if reassuring her not to be jealous. My voice turned ice cold. "Really? Because I think I just saw you at the gates of our neighborhood." The color drained from Nicholas's face instantly. He spun around, searching the surrounding street. When he couldn't spot me, his confidence returned. "Fiona, you must have seen someone else. I'm literally in the middle of a conference room right now. My colleagues can back me up." I cut him off. "Nicholas, do you really take me for an idiot?" I pushed the car door open and stepped out. The moment Nicholas saw me, his instinctive reaction was to pull Evelyn behind his back, shielding her from me. That single defensive movement tore through whatever remained of my heart. Evelyn clung to his arm, her eyes wide with carefully rehearsed terror. "Mrs. Montgomery, you can scream at me all you want, but my baby is innocent. Please don't hurt my child. I'll kneel and beg for your forgiveness if that's what it takes." She made a show of bending her knees, but before she could even lower herself, Nicholas pulled her back into his arms. His voice was thick with panic. "Evelyn, you're pregnant. You have to think about the baby, even if you don't care about your own body. I won't let anyone touch our child." Evelyn looked up at him, her eyes brimming with tears. "Even if that person is Fiona?" Nicholas's response was instant and absolute. "Not even her." Watching the theatrical display, the rage in my chest slowly subsided into a calm, hollow silence. "So this is your choice, Nicholas," I said quietly. "Between me and this woman, you chose her." Nicholas bit his lip, a flash of conflict crossing his eyes, but his voice remained firm. "I lost a child 3 years ago. I won't lose this one. Evelyn's baby will be protected. Fiona, please stop causing a scene. Once the baby is born safely, I will do whatever it takes to make this up to you." A dry, bitter laugh escaped my lips. He still remembered the child we lost 3 years ago, yet his way of honoring that loss was to cherish the woman who caused it, giving her the very family he denied me. How incredibly poetic. When I looked at him again, my eyes were as still as a stagnant pond. "Nicholas, you don't deserve to mention that child." I returned to our house, a place I had considered my sanctuary just an hour ago. Staring at the massive wedding portrait hanging in the center of the living room, the happy, radiant smile on my face felt like a cruel joke. I took the frame down, carried it out to the garden, and lit it with a lighter. The flames slowly consumed our smiling faces, turning my love for Nicholas into a pile of black ash. My phone vibrated. I expected a text from Nicholas, but it was an unknown number. "Mrs. Montgomery, your sudden appearance really gave me quite a fright. But Nicholas was so worried about me that he decided to move in with me until the baby is born. Thank you for stepping aside." My fingers trembled slightly, but the devastation I expected didn't come. I suddenly realized that my recovery was never going to come from a bottle of pills. It was going to come from seeing Nicholas for what he truly was and leaving him. Before I could delete the message, my mother's call came through. "Fiona, how did the checkup go? Did the doctor say when you can stop taking those meds?" Without waiting for my answer, she hurried on. "You've been in such a good mood lately, so you should probably stop taking them anyway. I heard those psychiatric drugs can affect your fertility. Nicholas's business is growing rapidly. You need to secure an heir before some other woman does. If you let someone else get ahead of you, you'll be left with nothing but tears. He might say he's not in a hurry, but what successful man doesn't want a son to inherit his hard work?" In the 3 years since my miscarriage, I had brought up the idea of trying for another baby multiple times, but every single time, Nicholas had shut it down. He told me pregnancy was too hard on my body, that we needed to wait until I was fully healed. He said he couldn't bear the thought of replacing our first child so quickly. I had believed every word. I had let myself drown in his tender care, even harboring a quiet sense of guilt. I had wondered if things would have been different if I hadn't been so impulsive, if I hadn't dragged his mother to that hotel room. But I had forgotten a simple truth. Nicholas was the root cause of all of it. A leopard never changes its spots. My mother was still rambling over the line, telling me that Nicholas had simply made a mistake that any man would make, urging me to let go of the past. "Mom," I said, a faint mocking smile touching my lips. "Nicholas is about to have a child. It's just not with me." Before she could speak, I disconnected the call. I scrolled through my contacts and found the number of the divorce lawyer I had consulted 3 years ago. "Mr. Carter, I want to proceed with the divorce. Please draft a new agreement for me." The line was quiet for a moment. "Mrs. Montgomery, I thought you had decided to reconcile. Why the sudden change?" "My husband is having a baby," I replied, "with the same woman from 3 years ago. This time, I don't just want a divorce. I want him to leave with with absolutely nothing. After finalizing the details with the lawyer, I sent a message to my mother-in-law. Though she had dropped hints about wanting a grandchild over the years, she had generally treated me well. When she first discovered Nicholas's affair 3 years ago, she had been so furious that she transferred a major portion of the family company's shares to my name, declaring she no longer had a son. Even after I lost the baby, she had never asked for those shares back. Mom, congratulations. You are about to become a grandmother. But the mother isn't me. I am divorcing Nicholas so they can have their family. I set my phone down just as the sound of a car entering the garage echoed through the house. The moment Nicholas walked through the door, his eyes fell on the charred remains of our wedding photo on the floor. He frowned instantly. Fiona, what is this? I just spoke with your therapist and she said your depression was almost fully managed. Can we please stop with the drama? I'm only human, Fiona. I get exhausted too. The sheer absurdity of his words nearly made me laugh. He was the one who had cheated, yet he was standing there playing the weary victim. I didn't have the energy to argue. I turned to walk back into the house, but he caught my wrist. Fiona, whether you believe me or not, this baby with Evelyn was an accident. I wanted her to terminate the pregnancy, but the doctor said her body is too weak. If she loses this child, she might never be able to conceive again. You're a woman. You know what it feels like to lose a baby. Surely you can find some compassion for her, can't you? Hearing those words, the last of my restraint snapped. I raised my hand and delivered a sharp slap across his face. Nicholas, I am nothing like you. I spat, my voice shaking with disgust. I will never show compassion to the woman who killed my child. Nicholas had never been struck in his life. His expression darkened instantly, his jaw tightening. Before he could speak, his phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID, let go of my wrist, and stepped aside to answer it. What do you mean, divorce? I am not getting a divorce. I will explain the situation to you in person, Mom. Don't worry. I'll talk to Fiona. He hung up and turned back to me, his voice cold. Fiona, do you really think that running to my mother and threatening divorce will force me to make Evelyn get an abortion? Once Evelyn gives birth, if you're willing, we can raise the child as our own. If you don't want that, I will send her and the baby abroad. I know this is incredibly unfair to you, and I promise I will make it up to you once this is settled. For now, I'm going to stay at Evelyn's place to take care of her. You need some time to calm down. But rest assured, you will always be Mrs. Montgomery. You are the only woman I love. Hearing the word love from his mouth made my stomach churn violently. I rushed into the bathroom, leaning over the toilet as my body convulsed, throwing up everything I had eaten. When I finished, Nicholas was by my side, gently helping me up with an expression of deep concern. Fiona, what's wrong? Is your stomach upset? Let's go to the hospital. I wiped my mouth, pulling away from his touch. Before I could speak, his phone began to ring. It was a unique, high-pitched ringtone. I had heard that specific tone multiple times over the past 6 months, sometimes during the day, but mostly in the dead of night. When I had asked him about it, he told me it was a highly important prospective client. He said securing this deal would ensure a flawless financial report for the year, and the board would finally approve his appointment as chairman. I had believed him. Every time that phone rang, I had quietly brought the device to him and left the room to give him space. But now, standing so close, I could hear the high-pitched voice coming through the receiver. It wasn't a client. It was Evelyn. Nicholas, my stomach hurts so much. Is something wrong with the baby? In the next second, Nicholas shoved me aside, rushing toward the front door without a single backward glance. Fiona, Evelyn is having an emergency. I have to go. If your stomach is really hurting, take some medicine. I'll take you to the clinic once I make sure she's okay. He vanished through the door. He didn't see me collapse onto the cold tiles, a sharp, white-hot pain blooming in my abdomen as a dark red stain began to spread across my clothes.
The pain came in waves. At first, Fiona thought it was only stress. The shock. The betrayal. Then another sharp cramp ripped through her abdomen, so intense that her vision blurred. She reached for her phone with trembling fingers and dialed Nicholas. Once. Twice. 3 times. Every call was rejected. A few seconds later, a text message arrived. I'm with Evelyn at the hospital. Stop making trouble over every little thing. We'll talk when I get back. Fiona stared at the screen. A dark laugh escaped her lips. Every little thing. 3 years ago, she had lost their child. Today, she was bleeding on the bathroom floor. And somehow, she was still the inconvenience. Using the sink for support, she managed to drag herself toward the living room. Her vision darkened repeatedly. Blood stained the marble tiles behind her. Finally, she called emergency services herself. Minutes later, the door opened again. This time it was Nicholas. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His hair was messy. He looked exhausted. The moment he saw Fiona awake, relief flooded his face. Thank God. He hurried toward her. Fiona, are you okay? The doctors called me. Get out. Nicholas froze. What? Fiona slowly turned her head. Her eyes were completely empty. The baby is gone. For a second, confusion appeared on his face. Then realization hit him. His complexion turned white. What baby? The baby you abandoned. The baby that died while you were comforting your mistress. Nicholas staggered backward. No, that's impossible. You weren't pregnant. I didn't know. Fiona laughed. A broken, hollow sound. Exactly. You didn't know. Because you never cared enough to know. Nicholas stood frozen, the color draining from his face. 3 years ago, he had lost one child. Now another. And both times his own choices had led him here. For the first time since Fiona had discovered the affair, genuine panic appeared in his eyes. Fiona, I'm sorry. I swear I didn't know. I would have come if what? Fiona cut him off. If Evelyn wasn't calling? If her stomach ache wasn't more important? If her baby wasn't more valuable? Nicholas opened his mouth. No words came out. Because there was no answer. The door burst open. An older woman stormed into the room. Nicholas's mother. Behind her were 2 company attorneys. The moment she saw Fiona lying in the hospital bed, tears filled her eyes. Then she turned toward Nicholas. And slapped him. Hard. The crack echoed through the room. You disgusting animal. Another slap. I defended you. A third. I thought you had changed. Nicholas stood there without resisting. His mother was shaking with rage. The first grandchild died because of your affair. The second died because you chose that woman again. You don't deserve to call yourself a husband. Nicholas lowered his head. For the first time in years, he looked utterly defeated. His mother took a folder from one of the lawyers, then threw it into his chest. The papers scattered across the floor. Company transfer documents, trust agreements, shareholder notices, everything. I've removed you. Nicholas looked up sharply. What? Effective immediately. You are no longer my successor. His mother's voice was ice cold. The shares I transferred to Fiona remain hers. As for you, she looked at him with complete disgust. You can build your future with Evelyn, but you'll do it without this family. Nicholas's face finally cracked. For years he had sacrificed everything to become chairman. Now it was gone. All of it. That evening another piece of news arrived. Evelyn had gone into premature labor after learning what happened. The baby survived. Barely. But the child required intensive medical care. And the hospital bills were astronomical. Nicholas rushed there immediately, only to discover something even worse. Evelyn wasn't crying over the baby. She was crying over the company. The inheritance is gone? The shares are gone too? You said you would become chairman. You promised our child would never struggle. Nicholas stared at her. Slowly, very slowly, he began to understand. The concern, the devotion, the tears. Perhaps not all of them had been real. For the first time, he saw the fear beneath Evelyn's performance. Fear of losing money. Fear of losing status. Fear of losing him. Not love. Never love. 1 month later, Fiona walked out of the courthouse carrying the finalized divorce decree. The summer sun felt warm on her skin. Her phone buzzed. A message from Nicholas. Can we meet one last time? She looked at it for several seconds, then deleted it. Another message arrived immediately. I loved you. Delete. I'm sorry. Delete. Please. Delete. Without hesitation, she blocked the number. Permanently. Across the street, a man stepped out of a black sedan. Mr. Carter smiled. Everything finished? Fiona nodded. Everything. For the first time in years, her chest felt light. No medication. No lies. No Nicholas. Only freedom. She took one final glance at the courthouse behind her, at the marriage that had cost her 2 children and 3 years of her life. Then she turned away, and never looked back. 6 months later, Nicholas finally understood what ruin felt like. Not the dramatic kind. Not a single catastrophic moment. The slow kind. The kind that stripped away everything piece by piece until there was nothing left. After the divorce, Fiona officially became the largest individual shareholder in the Montgomery family company. His mother kept her word. Nicholas was removed from every executive position, every board seat, every management committee. People who once stood up the moment he entered a room suddenly avoided eye contact. Former business partners stopped returning calls. Investors no longer cared about his explanations. To them, he wasn't an ambitious executive anymore. He was the man whose affair had destroyed his marriage, cost the company its succession plan, and triggered a public family scandal. The industry blacklisting he once used against Evelyn had become his own reality. No one wanted the drama attached to his name. Meanwhile, the legal bills continued piling up. The medical expenses for Evelyn's premature baby were staggering. And without his former salary, every month became harder than the last. At first Evelyn remained by his side. She cried. She apologized. She promised they would rebuild together. Nicholas wanted desperately to believe her. Then the money started running out. The luxury apartment was the first thing to go. Then the designer handbags. Then the private nurses. Then the expensive vacations she had spent years posting online. Every sacrifice came with a complaint. Every bill came with an argument. Every conversation ended in blame. One night Evelyn finally exploded. This is all Fiona's fault. Nicholas stared at her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he quietly asked, how is this Fiona's fault? Evelyn froze. You cheated with me. You lied with me. You helped destroy my marriage. You pushed Fiona down those stairs. The room went silent. Evelyn's face turned white. It was the first time he had ever said it out loud. You killed my first child. The words landed like a hammer. Nicholas suddenly realized something horrifying. For years he had blamed himself. Blamed circumstances. Blamed fate. But the woman sitting across from him had never shown genuine remorse. Not once. Not for Fiona. Not for the baby. Not for anything. The relationship began collapsing after that. The fights became daily. Then hourly. Eventually, Evelyn stopped pretending altogether. One afternoon Nicholas came home early. The apartment was empty. The baby's crib was empty. Evelyn was gone. So was most of what remained in his bank account. A short note sat on the kitchen counter. You have nothing left to offer me. Don't look for us. Nicholas read the message 3 times. Then sat down. And laughed. A broken, bitter laugh. 3 years. 3 years spent nursing Fiona back to health while secretly building a future with Evelyn. 3 years spent convincing himself he was protecting everyone. And in the end, both women were gone. One because he betrayed her. The other because he was no longer useful. A year later, Nicholas looked 10 years older. The stress had carved deep lines into his face. He rented a small apartment on the edge of the city. No staff. No driver. No assistants. No board meetings. No prestige. Just silence. One evening he passed a downtown hotel. A charity gala was taking place. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Business leaders posed for photographs. And there, beneath the bright lights, stood Fiona. Elegant. Confident. Radiant. People gathered around her naturally. Listening when she spoke. Laughing at her jokes. Respecting her. The company had flourished under her leadership and his mother's guidance. She looked happier than he had ever seen her. For a brief second he took a step forward, then stopped, because another man approached her. He handed her a drink. She smiled. A genuine smile. One Nicholas hadn't seen in years. The two disappeared into the crowd together. Nicholas remained standing outside, alone. A security guard eventually approached. "Sir, are you attending the event?" Nicholas looked through the glass one final time. At the life he had thrown away. At the woman who had once loved him enough to forgive the unforgivable. The woman who would never look back. "No," he said quietly. "I'm not." Then he turned around and walked away. This time, there was no one left waiting for him.